Welcome to another episode of Talk to Talk with me, Jeff. Now, this is an exclusive interview featuring Jeff Osborne, former CEO of the RMI and former head of Country Auto, and we are recording from the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit on behalf of the Festival of Motoring. This is a very, very special interview. Jeff was the very first person that I interviewed on Talk to Talk. 600 episodes later, I have the privilege to sit with this man of wisdom again. Jeff is not just one of the people that I interview, he's also my ambassador for the Motoring Woman of the Year Awards, which is now a national platform. We received 5,000 plus nominations from dealerships across the country per year. And I must say, was it not for the strength, or was it not for the encouragement of Jeff, I do not think that I would have had the determination or even the courage to do what I'm doing today. So wisdom is a virtue that isn't innate, but can only be acquired through experience. Anyone who is interested in trying new things and reflecting on the process has the ability to gain wisdom by learning as much as you can, analyzing your experiences and putting your knowledge to the test. You can become a wiser person. So Jeff is a man who made a large positive impact in the world of motoring. My friend, as I said, and true champion that stood and continues to stand by my side since day one. I have seen and experienced the individuals in our trade who have the real goods to inspire others, but Jeff has something that other folks don't have. In fact, Jeff demonstrates critical traits and behaviors that enliven us, light a spark inside of us, and make us want to be better, stronger, bigger, and more of who we are. Jeff has empathy and openly expresses the ability to understand our personal stories and challenges and who we really are and what we feel deep down. He's never coddled or overprotected me, but he validates and appreciates who and what I represent and am trying to achieve. He identified what I am inside, which made me feel safe to be more authentic and expand on my own identity even more fully, ensuring me that I'll never be crushed or humiliated in the process. As I said, the former CEO of the RMI and former head of Auto and Country, I want to welcome Jeff. He's a true leader who inspires each other. So without further ado, please allow me to welcome Jeff Osborne once again. And this interview is proudly brought to you by MFC and Evo by Nedbank. Jeff, I just want to say thank you once again for joining me here today, and just being a constant support in my life, in my career, and for so many others as well.
Thanks so much, Desh, for those very generous words of welcome. But let me say, I'm so humbled and privileged to played a part in your amazing success story. And I think it's fair to say, and so many people share this view, I know, is that you've more than vindicated the levels of confidence that so many people have had in you, and we just knew that you were going to crack it. But perhaps what we didn't realize was the extent to which you would grow, and you've done so well, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Jeff. This interview is not about me though, it's about you. So we're going to talk a little bit about, I always say this to my colleagues and people that want to move up the ranks in the industry. Men like you are our textbook, you are our Google. We should just be sponges and lap up everything that you can teach us. So I first and foremost want to ask you to give us a brief history. It's very difficult to do this, but in a nutshell, who are you, where do you come from, and what's your journey been like in the motoring trade?
Well, Desh, I guess I'm lucky to have perhaps been born a petrol head. Mm-hmm. It's always been a passion of mine where autos is concerned. And I started off at an early age in the industry with Sydney Clo, the Sydney Clo Group, which later became McCarthy's. And then I moved on to Caltex Oil on the lubricant and auto side of Caltex. And I had a lot of time overseas with them in Australia, the USA and UK and so on. Got 15 years with Caltex. And then I always aspired to have my own service station or petrol station. And I eventually ended up with 3 Xenex service stations in the north of Johannesburg. And during that period I was quite active on the executive structures of what was previously known as the MIF, the Motor Industries Federation, which later on became the RMI. But in any event, I did that for 16 years, sold my garages, and I joined the RMI on a short-term contract and ended up staying for the next 14 years as CEO of the structure, which for me was a wonderful experience, serving the industry from a broader perspective in so many diverse and numerous areas. And it gave me great pleasure. We had a great team. They're still going strong. I see they're actually next door to us here today, the RMI stand. But then at 65, mandatory retirement, I was approached by eBay in the United States to head up a brand new autos portal for Gumtree, the classified advertising site. And we very successfully launched that and got it up and running, and I headed that up for 8 years, and that too was a wonderful experience. Then a year and a half ago I decided to call it a day with Gumtree, and I was humbled to be approached by TransUnion, and I'm presently contracted to TransUnion, again a multinational. It's an American company based out of Chicago, very big in Africa on their autos, products and services and solutions. So I've joined them as a strategic business partner, stroke consultant advisor, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it as a natural extension of all that I've learnt over the years, and now applying that into this whole new landscape that we all face of digitalization and online for the consumer and the dealer, never ending and just changing all the time. Very exciting, very exciting.
So what exactly, where is TransUnion now in terms of product?
Okay, well, TransUnion have done extremely well in Africa on the auto side. In fact, although they are primarily, as I said, a credit bureau, they have this dedicated autos focus where they've recognized and realized the need and the business imperative of assisting all the role players in this process of buying and selling vehicles, and that includes everybody, all the stakeholders. So it's the banks, the finance houses, the classified aggregating sites like Auto Trader, Gumtree and others, the insurance companies, all the dealers. You've got in South Africa, you've got about 2,500 reputable dealers, and then you have all those consumers out there who are buying and selling cars all the time, and there's a lot of risk and complexity attaching to that. And what Auto Union have done is they have introduced, because of the fact that they are a multinational, they've introduced some world-class, real cutting-edge technology business solutions into the process, which serve to assist all the role players. To give you an example, we all know and we hear about fraud being committed. And that's one of the sad realities of online, of course, is that there are elements of fraud, but it has to be managed. So they've got things like identification verification, where they are linked to the Department of Home Affairs. So TransUnion, being a multinational company, every single device or IP address is registered to them and on their database, and there's somewhere in the region of 10.5 billion IP addresses. So when it comes to mitigating and reducing fraud, by way of example, people commit these attempted acts of fraud on these devices. So they can see instantaneously if, for example, one particular IP address has tried 4 or 5 times in the last hour to get credit or to transact, and just red flags and that kind of thing. So that's very, very useful. But also one of the very, very important aspects, particularly when it comes to buying and selling pre-owned cars, is to determine the right price. You know, the seller wants to know what he can ask for it, what he can expect for it, and the prospective buyer needs to know what they should be paying. And that's a very complex process, but there's no two used cars that are alike, and therein lies the challenge. You know, a new car is easy. You look up the list price and that's the price of the car. But a used car, you have to take into account everything that relates to that car. The mileage, the year, the color, manual or automatic, the fuel type, the extras. So it's not a matter of just going into a little book as one could do or used to do years ago and say, well, that's the indicative price. Now what TransUnion do, they've developed a number of very intuitive ways and means of arriving as close as possible to the right price. So, and they aggregate the selling price, the asking price, and they get information from a plethora of sources, and they aggregate all of that. So they've actually developed an app called First Check, which the consumer can download for free. And you can go into that app, you can look up one car per month for free. So basically, you want to sell your car dish, you enter the information on the app, you download the app, open the app, and it'll give you an indicative average price. Then it'll guide you and show you how to add on for the mileage, for the color, for all the extras the car has, leather seats, whatever, the heated seats, heated steering wheel, and then arrive at as close as possible to the right price. Now the dealers use that as well, and you can imagine the challenge they have, because they trade vehicles in, they buy vehicles, as we all know. They want to pay the right price, and they want to sell them as quickly as possible. So they need to price them right as well. So it's a very, very important function of the buying and selling and the process of in the pre-used car space.
So Jeff, you've been in the industry for more than 5 decades. You've seen the transformation take place, or the transformation taking place. How do you feel about this, and what's your observation?
Yeah, no, it's something that I'm very passionate about, Desh, and it's certainly something that was a concern to many for a long time, because it was becoming increasingly and embarrassingly apparent that we just as an industry weren't transforming to become more representative of the South African society, particularly post-94. But I'm happy to say that I believe there have been great strides made since then, and people like yourself who have been so involved and proactive in driving this transformation, because it's not just gender transformation, it's in a broader sense, but particularly the motor industry. And it's not necessarily an indictment on the industry per se, because it always has been, and not only here but also overseas, it's a predominantly white male industry everywhere in the world. So that has been a challenge. But I mean, if one looks around now, and you know this better than anybody in this country, I think.
Look at this.
Absolutely, and I mean, you are so close to all those wonderful ladies out there who are now assuming and holding very successfully some extremely senior positions within the industry. You know, one just comes to mind, Marcia Mayaba, wonderful CEO of Barlow World, now senior position with Isuzu and so on, and there are many. Petunia of Westbank and so on. So absolutely amazing progress, but still happening, and it needs to. I'm just wondering, looking at all these wonderful classic cars racing past the window here, how many of them are not being driven by white males. Probably the majority are being driven. But it is changing, It's changing. I mean, there was a lady, I can't remember her name, she's a champion motorcycle racer. You might remember her, a black lady. Name evading, but I mean, that's the type of thing that's happening.
Right. So yesterday I had Paige sitting here, and she's a race car driver, so I interviewed her, and it was absolutely amazing to see, like you said, that transformation.
No, I mean, she's an amazing racing driver, and she's probably out there driving right now.
Absolutely, yes. Jeff, what advice would you like to give to not just young women, but young women and men, to just take the opportunities that the motoring trade have to offer and run with it and have confidence? What type of advice can you impart today?
I think key to it all, and it's just so fundamental, it's almost silly in a way, that every person, no matter who they are, what persuasion they are or gender they are, needs to hold their head high and be proud of who they are with the utmost confidence and be forthright in everything they do. Believe in themselves. There's no need to apologize for anything or to take a second place in any process. Absolutely. You walk in and make like you own the place.
Yes,
that's what I always say to my daughters.
Yes.
Make like it's yours. You know.
Fake it until you make it. Fake it until you make it. Jeff, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me once again. I will try and have you on my platform as often as possible. There's so much more you can teach us. There's so much more knowledge that we need, to learn about. Not just knowledge, but the enthusiasm that you display in everything. We absolutely need that. We need the guidance, and I'm going to try and bring you back, like I said, as often as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Des, and thank you. It's always a great pleasure to see you and to be with you and to be interviewed by you. You always do it so well, and you always know how to ask the right questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Viewers, we would like to thank you for your continued support and encourage you to like and share our content. Our non-profit companies, the Motoring Woman of the Year Awards, powered by MFC and Evo by Nedbank, and the Talk the Talk Studios, sponsored by Sariti Solutions and Evo by Nedbank, are platforms aimed at empowering, uplifting, and celebrating the women of motoring South Africa. We are not just telling stories, we are changing lives. If you are searching for a new or pre-owned vehicle, please visit www.auto.evo.africa. We have a wide range of vehicles on sale for you to choose from, and we only advertise on behalf of reliable and trustworthy MFC accredited dealerships. This car listing portal is user-friendly, and you can also find vehicle reviews, car maintenance tips, and automotive advice, all courtesy of Talk the Talk Studios. So ladies, I think this is the perfect time to talk about what I'm going to talk about now, because Jeff is such a huge an instrumental part of everything that I've been doing. So ensuring women's economic empowerment and building their adaptability and resilience to the changing labor market has never been more important. Let your goal be to ensure that women become empowered by learning self-development and essential employment skills such as literacy skills, vocational skills, and financial skills. And I also want to just talk about entitlement. We should not be entitled. It does not matter that this is a predominantly male space. It does not mean that we did not have exposure to this life. It simply means we need to learn. We need to educate ourselves. We need to be ambitious. If you want to move up the ladder, or if you want to move up the ranks, you need to be able to want it. You cannot feel entitled. It's so important to understand that it's time we stop staring up those steps, and it's time we step up those steps. And with that, I'd like to remind you that the question isn't who's going to let me. It should always be who's going to stop me.